Good day. Welcome to lesson 10, Web Application Exploitation Part 2. My name once again is Zechariah Akepelo, Web Application Exploitation Part 2. So in this lesson, we will take a look at the path traversal. We also talk about the file inclusion vulnerabilities and unrestricted file upload. So these vulnerabilities are very easy to exploit, and you can easily even discover this kind of vulnerability with any of your good web application penetration testing tooling. You can, if you have a professional version for Bob Suite, you can use Bob Suite to discover this vulnerability, and also you can also leverage of any of your web application scanner to discover this vulnerability. The exploitation is quite straightforward. I've done some quite number of screen grab on a target application that I used to present this class. So let's start with the path traversal. As you all know, that some web application need to access resource on the file system to implement the web application, such as images, static text, and so on. They sometimes use parameters to define the resources. So when these parameters are user control, and if these parameters are not sanitized and are used to build resource path on the file, this can cause a security issue. For example, let's presume that these are target URL. As you can see, this probably is taking a particular file on a web server. So this is not a good coding practice. So the parameter will be used by the web application to locate the source date. So that means that there is a file called this name on the file system. So if the web application does not sanitize this parameter properly, an attacker could manipulate it to access the content of any arbitrary file, apart from the file that you want your user to be able to access. An attacker can just pick up any arbitrary file or any very sensitive file on your file system. Then another way is that the attacker can also know about the /attack. Usually performed by means of those characters that allow us to move up in the hierarchical tree. So by prefacing this sequence with /, it's impossible to access directly that are hierarchical higher than the one from which you are picking the file. So for example, in this case, so instead for the attacker to reference the particular file, the attacker decided to just keep on trying this log. We can use Bob Suite to automate this process, because at times before you might get to the real file, it might take navigate about 4, 5, 6 directly. But in order to make it work faster, you can use Bob Suite to automate this process. You can also use our Python scripting to automate the path traversal process. So on Windows system, depending on the target OS, you can try to access the following resources. You all know that this win.ini file is a very sensitive file, and boot.ini file is very sensitive with those files. So I can do my direct path traversal. I can use my Python to automate that. I think for this, because we've done so well on the how to use the OS module on Python. So if you can use your Python scripting to also navigate that. So now let's analyze some useful information about how to build a path traversal payload, and then see how we can protect our web application against this attack. So what is the best defensive techniques? So the best techniques is just to make sure that all depending on your operating system that is running on your web server. The root folder can be located if for Unix you used force slash. If for Windows you use backslash. You must also understand the operating system before you can carry out this kind of attack. Now, to move up the current directory, you can use the following sequence as displayed there. Then, if a specific sequence can be used to terminate the current file, the sequence take the name of not byte. So you can also this is a not byte. This is a not byte character. So as you can see, the not byte character will allow the user to terminate the string and read any other file extension. So peradventure, if the developer do some form of restriction. So if you apply the not byte character, it will terminate any string and allow the attacker to use another file extension. But to guide against this, do not allow not byte character whenever you can do a sanitization for that. Then another thing for us to need to understand that is the encoding. Web applications that perform filtering operation on these nasty characters should be aware of different encoding. There are different level of encoding. Let us see a few example of URL encoding. So these are the different types of URL encoding for system. For this character encoding, this for the system bit encoding. encoding. So any combination of these previous encoding may work on the target web application. So you may try something like the following payload. So though all these can be bypassed. So now let's quickly do some so me launch out my WhatsApp. Sorry, let me go back to my, I think the Zap. I installed the Zap on my and do an assessment on the my example plane. Let me go back to my lab. My Zap is coming up. WhatsApp is coming up. I think I have some of my, for this section, we want to play with some of the application on the OWASP broken web application. So I've already so 192. So launch your OWASP broken web application. We want to conduct a detailed vulnerability assessment on our OWASP break. Right. So let's start with automated scan. So then really we can switch over Manual scan later. I have a feel of why this one is ongoing. I can go over to the manual scan. Let me launch my browser. And if it's the manual scan, I'll be able to do a whole lot. So while the browser is loading, while the scan is ongoing, you can also be checking for the vulnerability that have been displayed. You can see that we have already started getting some sensitive vulnerability already. So this is a file upload page. I want to see whether I can upload any file. Okay, now upload. Because if this is not sanitized, one can actually upload different form of file. Let me look for one file here. So let me just upload an executable file. Let me go to my Windows. Okay. I can actually upload some dangerous file here. File uploaded successfully here. I'm trying to do a demonstration on unrestricted file vulnerabilities. So anybody that comes there, instead of it to be opening a real file, I can actually upload the malware, and I can actually upload a web shell. Just imagine me developing, using a Python script to develop a web shell, maybe a web shell to do it, to copy out all the system-related file, a very important file on the web app server. I can develop a Python script to do that. So some of these vulnerabilities are very easy to exploit, and you can also, your scanner can also, with the scanner, you can see that. For directory browser, you can see that it's telling me that this application, these are the URL that are vulnerable to the directory browser. So I can easily come here and do all of that. So let's proceed as time goes on, and we go back to our scanner while this scanning is going on silently. So let's talk about the file inclusion vulnerabilities. So file inclusion vulnerabilities are divided into both and local, so depending on where the file to include is located. As you remember, about the vintage LFI attack against the first Pearl CGI in the early 1990s. But if you don't know about the story, just Google it, vintage LFI. So that's when the vulnerability was first given the first publication. So this type of vulnerability was very common at that time as a result of security awareness not being very widespread among developers. However, it is still found in custom script where part characters are not stripped from input and input is used as a part of include. So the vulnerability is easier to understand if you look at a simple section of, let's say, PHP code. Let us suppose that the target application changes its content depending on the location of the editor. The URL is something like this. Let's look at this. The page code that handle this parameter is as follows. That handle these parameters. So you get the location. So as you can see, we can just enter any value local path or file to have the PHP include it in the response to our browser. So this will go up 3 directories and then return it is a password. So this is the famous Unix password file. We all know that. So let's look at this example again. So this one will use a location parameter to render the content to the users, right? So you can also manipulate this and get to display the etc password, the passwd file. So this is a very serious vulnerabilities that need to be addressed. If you do a proper security code review, you can easily deal with the vulnerabilities. So let's talk about the remote file equation. So this works the same way as LFI. The only difference is that the file to be used is pulled remotely. So if you are pulling the file remotely like this one now, yeah. Our aim in this case is not just to read, but to include our own code in the execution. And as people usually will look like this, you can see they can be very dangerous, you know. So in this case, you can share.txt contain PHP code will be included in the page and executed. The common exploit of this vulnerability is to include PHP shell. You can also include Python shell that will let the hacker or the pen tester execute any code on the server. Even the simplest PHP shell will accept from get or post argument and execute them on the server. So that's why sanitation is very, very key. You need to do a proper sanitation. Like in our last lesson, we talked about we did some demonstration on how to conduct a PHP injection and also how to pass out your system command on your URL. You can see this is I just try to print out different scenarios so that we have a better understanding of how this thing works. So this vulnerability should be checked when an include is thought to be present in the code. To immediately spot a vulnerability parameter, you can just inject this guy with, for example, this guy was just injected with a Google URL. So let's talk about the unrestricted file upload. So if you don't sanitize your parameters like what I demonstrated here, I can actually upload any file of my choice. I can upload a script, I can upload a Python shell, I can upload. So I think for the classwork, I want us to upload the Python shell to do a browsing, maybe a directory browsing. You know, we've talked about how to use Python to do a directory browsing in one of our earlier lessons. I will give you like 30 minutes. Open up your OWASP broken web application and make sure that they so after opening it up, developed a web shell or not just develop a simple program, a simple script. So my system is not hanging. I just develop a simple script to do a listing of all the directory system. So if somebody click on it, so just your IP address might be different from mine. So use OWASP bricks and develop a Python shell or a Python script to do a listing. And beyond that, you can also see what you can do. You can do far much more, but at the basic, you'll be able to do a listing of all the directories, sensitive, not the directories are on the not only on the directory, all the root directories. So to demonstrate unrestricted file upload. So I think with exploitation, the unrestricted file upload vulnerability is one of the most dangerous vulnerabilities that a web application may suffer. The vulnerability affects all those web applications that allow the upload of files without properly enforcing restricted policy. For example, on the maximum size of the file. So with this kind of vulnerability, you can definitely cause a denial of service. I can decide to upload a file that will be 10 terabytes. You know, if I try that, the web server will be overwhelmed and the file will not be uploaded, and I will render the web server useless, the application useless for every other users. So if web application do not implement proper restriction on file uploaded by the user, the risk of being compromised is very high. Although the impact of this vulnerability highly depends upon how the file is used by the web application. So malicious user as well as a penetration tester may be able to acquire complete control of the system, so which can be very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. So I think I just do like kind of some screenshot on how to just upload some very funny file. So try that with your web, with your Python scripting. Just upload the features application or the features scripting. And beyond that, you can do a lot much more. You can also do a command line injection if your application is vulnerable. If there is no unrestricted file, as we demonstrated in our last lesson. So in order for the application to be vulnerable, the following condition will apply. The file type is not checked against a whitelist or allow format. The file name and part of the uploaded file is known to the attacker or guessable. The folder in which the file is placed allows the execution of server-side scripting. So know that uploading a shell is the most impactful exploitation approach to this vulnerability, but certainly not the only one. Although a web shell may allow the attacker to execute command, browse the system, and so on, as we demonstrated in our last lesson, other attack can be run, such as creating phishing pages, defacing the web application, storing XSS, just like we did, and how we're able to use an SSS to listen to the user interaction on the web application. So this vulnerability is very, very dangerous, and it also depends on what you want to do. So beyond the exercise that we've conducted So I want you to do some further practice on the exploitation with both the remote file inclusion and the local file inclusion. Also do a further test on unrestricted file upload. So you can leverage, use your OWASP bricks upload. For you to have a hint of some of the vulnerability, you can run a scan. You can see that a lot of injection related base vulnerability. A lot of vulnerability that has to do with directory browsing, path traversal, and a lot of that, even vulnerability that has to do with the use of known vulnerable libraries. And so I will give you another 30 minutes to practice all of this. So leverage on the OWASP bricks. The OWASP bricks is part of the OWASP broken web application. And try that as display the screen so that you know the injectable pawn that are vulnerable, so that you know where exactly to carry out your exploitation. Thank you, and do have a wonderful day.